That was me singing, by the way. How are we doing today? We just kicked down.
New York, New York, these vagabonds.
Wow, cute. Am I moving? No. I think we're just doing a bunch of interviews and content up in New York in January. Since we're on the meta right now, can we get your thoughts on Tyler One becoming the guild leader of OnlyFans after Soda Pop and died in WoW? You know, I'm gonna be honest. Originally, like in just seeing the headline, I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but I like that Tyler One's been applying himself, you know, hardcore to World of Warcraft. And I think that when he puts his mind to things, like he did with chess or League or anything else, I think he does a really good job. And I think he's brought a good balance of humor, but also serious playability to the World of Warcraft guild. So I support his leadership role. I don't know why kick us down, but it is. What are we gonna do? What are you gonna do? Oh man. I'm like, I feel the limits of my mortality on Vyvanse more than ever before. I feel like before I started Vyvanse, I feel like the whole world was open to me and we could literally do anything. And now that I'm on Vyvanse, I see how much like reading and studying you can do into one thing. And now I feel like I don't have time for anything. I want to watch the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff. My friend told me that it's like 220 hours of trial footage though. So this would be like a month thing. But I feel like somehow the Amber Heard Johnny Depp stuff, I feel like it was like why? I feel like it was an important cultural moment in the internet zeitgeist that this is what I feel. This is what I feel is true, but I'm pretty sure it's not true. So this is what my corrective intuition is telling me is true, but I don't really know if that's true. And so it feels like Amber Heard was like the last big Me Tooer, and she took down Johnny Depp, who was this evil, hateful abuser. And she got him, and it was the crowning cap on all the Me Too stuff, basically. It was taking down this abusive guy. And then, as time goes on and the trial comes out, now we're like, oh, actually, Johnny Depp is redeemed. He was actually the good guy the whole time, or he's a flawed human being. Amber Heard was crazy, evil, and hateful. And now she got her comeuppance when Johnny Depp crushed her in the court cases or whatever. I feel like it feels like that's the prevailing attitude on the internet, and my counterintuition from the little bit I've seen is telling me that that's completely and totally incorrect. But because I haven't watched I don't trust anybody's legal summaries anymore on anything. Now I feel like I want to watch it myself. So for instance, like I had a friend tell me that I haven't even looked at all the trial outcomes. I don't even know what all the individual cases were, but like supposedly, for instance, like Johnny Depp won the defamation suit, but he lost the abuse case, right? He was held civilly liable for being, for what, domestic violence? I don't know what the cases were over exactly. For the UK case. So I feel like everything goes back to Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. No, not really. But I feel like that gets brought up so much. And then I just came up again with the Hassan stuff. And I feel not good having a good opinion or perspective on it. All you need to know, Destiny, is that she shat on the bed. Yeah, so like I know all of those memes, that she shat on the bed, that she almost cut off Johnny Depp's finger. Like I know all these memes, but supposedly Johnny Depp had like a PR firm that was working really, really, really hard to make all of these memes like the prevailing narrative, and it caught, and it has caught. And so now I don't know. Now I feel like I just want to watch it. Johnny Depp won the PR war so well because Depp came off horribly if you watch the case Destiny. So that was the strongest argument that my friend gave me, because that prevailing internet narrative that I gave, that was like my opinion until like 2 weeks ago, I think. And then I started talking to another friend who's a law school person, and she's watched a lot of this stuff because she likes the pop culture law bullshit or whatever. One of the points that she made, though, that I thought was a really good point, and I don't know why it just slipped my mind, but like Johnny Depp had huge problems outside of Amber Heard. Like supposedly he was getting like kicked off of sets. He was like an alcoholic. Like nobody liked this guy. It wasn't just Amber Heard, because that was like my opinion, was that, oh, everybody doesn't like Johnny Depp because Amber Heard character assassinated him with her fake Me Too movement bullshit or whatever. But that wasn't the case. Apparently, like nobody liked Johnny Depp. He was horrible to work around. And I remember at the end, I was like, well, didn't he have like a redemption arc? And he didn't have a redemption arc. He's been in one thing. And I had this feeling that, well, because I've seen him in stuff, but I haven't. I've seen him in one ad. It was like a perfume ad or a cologne ad that I guess he's like part of. And I guess, yeah, wait, I guess that is true. So I had like this whole delusion in my mind over Johnny Depp stuff that I haven't. Yeah, I don't know. Don't watch it. You've done so much good work on your anti-misogyny arc. I have a feeling if we watch it and make an arc over it and Amber Heard is actually in the wrong, the community will take multiple steps back. My community just has some misogyny problems. I don't know. Well, I just ban aggressively for it. But if anything, the inclination towards this arc would probably be not pro Amber Heard. It'd be more probably anti-Johnny Depp. So I don't even know if that would be the case, but... Fuck, I woke up and I was going to do a drive-by and ban like 400 people. But now I took my Vyvanse, so I'm not in a bad mood, and now I don't want to ban everybody. This thread will probably, survive the day. Just because I didn't ban you all when I woke up. This is a phenomenon that happens on my subreddit, and I need to figure out how to make this not happen because it's driving me crazy on this, okay? I will say something on stream. I'll say something like this. I'll say something like, personally, I like brunette hair over blonde hair. I think that brunettes look nicer than blondes. That's just my personal opinion, right? I'll give that take on stream. And then somebody will make a Reddit thread, and the title will be something like, "Can't believe Destiny still thinks that blondes are disgusting." And then the body of the thread will be something like, "It's crazy that Destiny on stream is just saying that blonde women should be torn apart like dogs, like he's a Ramsay Bolton, and we just need to do mass rapes of all blonde women." And then all of the comments will be like, and then like mass rape will be like, "Yeah, I think that Destiny's been really unhinged about blonde women. I can't believe that he said the thing about like dogs tearing them to pieces." Like all of this shit. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't think I've ever made this comment ever in my entire life. Destiny talks as if Europe is the third world. I don't know if I have ever in my entire life said anything remotely like this. And I feel like I've said on the opposite like a billion times, that even in like, I feel like the example I give so much was like, even when I've been to like Warsaw, like when I went to Poland and lived in Poland for 3 months, my impression was like, oh, it's Poland. It's like a dirt poor, like cheap trash country or whatever. And then like even things like the public transit of the country was like, holy shit, this is the sickest thing in the world, right? Like even when I spent 3 months in Poland, I had nothing but good things to say. Like it's so funny because one of my big internet moments, this was like 10 years ago, was fighting with Thorin because Thorin said that Poland was a shithole country and that's why they wanted to host esports events. And I was like, well, hold on, that's not fair to say. And then Poland ended up nuking Thorin from an event because of our fight over that. The only 3 negative things that I've said about Europe, and I don't even know if this counts, is one, I've said that our tech people get compensated disproportionately a huge amount. Our medical personnel get compensated disproportionately, a huge amount, and I think we've done better cumulatively as an economy coming out of COVID. I don't think I've ever given this indication. I am so curious. It's in reference to when you say web developers get paid 32,000 quid, but in America, it's like 100K. I've only ever made that statement in regards to the UK because it's the only place that I'm familiar with that I know people, and I've seen people get hired out of, and I've seen people complain about it. But I think I've literally always said, like in the UK, which I'm pretty sure is true, and I think we even looked at like median salaries for computer programmer people or software dev people out of the UK, and I think it is quite a bit lower than the US. And same thing with doctors as well. Even for the doctor pay, though, I usually specify NHS, although it's probably true throughout Europe as well. Isn't that just a statistic, though? Where is the moral loading coming from? For me, I don't think I've ever morally loaded that. But it's so weird that what's wrong with the post, the Rage Bite title? I've never talked about Europe as being a third world place ever. Oh wait, did I should have perma-banned this guy. Wait, hold on, did I? Let me check. I think I did ban him. I did a 90-day ban. What was I thinking? Okay. Not to be a Eurocuck, but Destiny's new talking point that he keeps repeating about how, quote, a computer scientist makes 30K in Europe. I think I've always clarified that it's in the United Kingdom, but this vastly lower standard of living drives me nuts. I am from Denmark, and I just checked. Also, Denmark? But do you know what Keynesian econ actually is? You talk as if you don't. No, I don't. The only thing I know about Keynesian economics is that whenever Republicans are ass-pained, they would say Democrats believe in Keynesian economics, which I think has something to do with if you spend money in the government, it accelerates through the economy. I don't know, I couldn't give you a formal definition of anything. Keynesian? Kinds as in mines? But it's, I guess, Keynesian. Yeah, Keynesian. It's so annoying when somebody will repeat a take that, I agree with 90% of it, and then they act like they're in such stark contrast to me, and then all the brave people come out, and they're like, ugh, true. Keep in mind, the computer scientists work less hours a week in Denmark, have way more paid days off, and on most other metrics, quality of life and standard of living is actually higher on average in Denmark compared to the US. It's an extremely hyperbolic, if not outright stupid talking point. I agree. It would be extremely hyperbolic and extremely fucking stupid to say that on the average, the United States of America has a better standard of living than people in Denmark. I don't think I would ever say that ever in my entire life. Why would I ever? That doesn't even sound like something I would say. That doesn't even sound like something I would say. What the fuck? Unless I'm trolling Euros. Or somebody said, to be fair, there's a small chance that they tuned in a few times right when you happen to be playing Time Guesser. Oh, maybe? How much of that thread did you read? It's mostly other Europeans clowning on OP. You got one guide? Hold on, I don't know. I got beard memes. I need to know. I need a ban before my Vive ends. I would perma-ban this guy if I woke up and read this comment. But they're the most regulated industry. They have to fill out paperwork and everything. Can you imagine? Yes, healthcare is more regulated than whatever dog shit industry you work in. And by work in, I mean wherever you're interning at because you're a sophomore in college. Yes, it is. It is one of the most regulated industries. That is true. Why would you? This, along with they can only keep up to 20% of premiums, so surely they're not denying claims to make money point, has been driving me insane. I don't even necessarily disagree that companies are doing anything extremely evil, but that this argument is inherently illogical. It's not illogical. Hold on. On a pure logics perspective, if I receive $10 million in premiums, I have to pay out at least $8 million in medical claims. If I deny too many claims, then I have to reimburse my customers. Technically, it's in my interest to pay more medical claims because then I can collect more premiums and keep a higher absolute amount of money. There's nothing. I mean, you can argue that this is just a logical argument. And when I say logical, I just mean like deductively follows. It might not be true. Like there might be some other issue, but then that's on you to prove. But I'm only countering that logical argument with the attempted logical argument of the way that they make money is by denying claims. That's not true. That can't be the case. Like that fails logically because you have to maintain that ratio of administrative cost to premium intake. If you deny too much, you would have to pay some back. So that doesn't work that way, right? So I'm only deploying logic to counter the logic, but this isn't even has anything to do with the fact of the matter. It does seem to be doing a lot of work if you consider they don't just outright deny claims, they delay them and lock them up for as long as possible. So, okay, I'm sorry. This will be the last time I speak on this, okay? I'm trying to define, 80-20. Talk to my friend about this, okay? I need to not focus on divisive issues, which feels cucked. We've been arguing about this topic for weeks. Healthcare is a huge industry that affects everybody in the United States, and there are a ton of people that are looking at it. If I was so clearly and obviously wrong, and you should be able to apply this heuristic to anything you agree with me about, disagree with me about, or agree or disagree with somebody else about. If I was so clearly and obviously wrong, there would be more posted than just anecdotes. I'm sorry. That's the reality of it. If there was like, oh, they are denying claims like massively, or they're delaying them, blah, then you would have numbers, you would have stats, you would have evidence, you would have data. There'd be something. There's nothing. It's just lay Reddit comments, lay Reddit stories, and lay epic articles, and that's it. That's like, there should be something there. Again, to back around or circle around, the only reason I bring this up is because there are issues that we have with our healthcare system, but by fixating and hyperfixating on this autistic deny, depose, deplete their cum from their balls or whatever, by fixating on this thing and then just health insurance, you miss the whole conversation about what makes healthcare expensive in the United States. And as a result, and I already made this prediction, and it is true, nothing is going to change about our healthcare system as a result of all the Luigi shit. Because all the anger is misguided. People don't even know what you want. You don't even know what the problem is. So you can't even begin to fix it. And that's just annoying to me. But at the end of the day, I'm rich. I don't care. So get fucked. I will pay out of pocket for everything. I broke my arm yesterday just to go to the fucking ER and pay $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to get it fixed. Because I wanted to. Is it a chance that there are other loopholes that can be used? Let's ask ChatGPT. There can be, but I'm just waiting for those arguments to be brought to me. I don't even have. I think also people assume that I'm like emotionally contrarian, whatever retarded shit you guys post, because I'm just not listening to everybody screaming the same thing over and over again. I've said this before, because what did that guy post in chat? What would it take to change your mind on this? Literally a single fucking possible point, a single logical, coherent, sound, back with data, just one thing, and I would probably reconsider some things. Speaking of, I got an email today that I thought was interesting, and this actually is a perspective changer slightly on tech stuff, which I thought was really interesting. I hadn't considered it from this perspective before. He put two things in this email that almost made me instantly delete it. Let me read this. I'm 25, red flag, raised $4 million, O1 visa holder. You're on the tech stuff. So called me wrong on something. Grammar error, and 25 years old. Lots of red flags there. But something that I thought was interesting, I don't think I'll read this entire email, but he brings up that one of the big issues in tech right now is the reason why the payment to people is so high is because tech is literally just a revenue-focused industry. Like, that's literally it. The only thing tech companies care about is revenue, and they don't give a fuck about profits because it's all about growth, and that most of the people that work in tech aren't worth it, are dog shit employees, and they're carried by like the 1%, and that I guess there are certain companies that are trying to like grab people out of high school or whatever because these are like the like employees that, fuck it, I will read this actually. I'm one of the retard tech bros. You shape my early political stuff, but I think you're further left on economic issues than objective truth if you saw what I see. Keep in mind, this guy's 25, so be careful. TLDR, big tech doesn't hire out of high school, not because college contributes something, but because their labor force optimization is very, very poor. You think that because Amazon is paying new grads 180,000 TC, that stands for total compensation, they're producing that much value because you think tech labor markets are efficient. Why would they pay so much if they produce nothing? Probably 60 to 80% of Amazon / Google / et cetera engineers are probably net negative contribution of value. They hire because companies that scale are supposed to hire, and the profit engine maintained by less than 5% of the engineers, who are phenomenal. The companies fire for efficiency when they need to be lean due to market pressures. If your core revenue stream with 90% margins is still growing double digits at 40 billion per year, like Facebook, then there's very little pressure to cut. The marginal time a CEO at a company like this spends thinking about cutting costs is basically always overshadowed by the time they can spend expanding revenue. But this doesn't mean those engineers aren't worthless / useless. The first wave of tech acquisitions by PE firms like Silver Lake are catalyzed by the realization, post Elon firing 90% of Twitter, that these companies are massively inefficient and that the bulk of their R&D spend is just setting money on fire because 80% gross markings means they don't need to be lean. Expect this trend to grow in the next 5 years. TLDR, companies with sophisticated labor force optimization, such as HFTs and early stage venture, do hire out of high school. Big tech has relatively low value per employee. Facebook's is like 250K to 750K per employee, but Jane Street's 5 mil per employee. Does Jane Street refer to finance? I think it does. It's a capital market company. Okay. Hedge funds like Citadel, Jane Street, Hudson River Trading make $5 million per employee, and they have much more sophisticated talent strategies, and they absolutely recruit out of high school because they understand that college doesn't add shit for these people. They're hanging out around math Olympiads and programming Olympiads to try to pull them as fast as possible. They understand 150 plus IQ is the only thing that matters, and that hoarding that talent equals 40% IRR risk-free on the exchanges. IRR is investment rate of return? Rate of return is ROR. I don't know what IRR means. Internal rate of return. Gotcha. The same trend is true in VC / early stage startups, where power law means that they understand college makes you probably on average a worse entrepreneur. Peter Thiel backs under 23-year-olds who drop out of college. The average IRR / hit rate of Thiel fellow startups is insanely high via founder fund. I know a ton of these 20-year-olds or 17-year-olds who hit the scene. I can tell you personally that I learned literally nothing useful at all in my 4 years of Berkeley. Basically all of the best engineers, I'm not talking about the dog shit SWs at Google, are dropout. Now you might say, well, sure, maybe the 0.0001%, but what about everyone else? Going back to the original point of these companies being inefficient, the returns of Facebook ads or Amazon AWS or Google search are produced by the 0.0001% of the company almost entirely. Everyone else is just along for the ride, basically dead weight. Now, obviously, this entire email reads like the hubris of a 25-year-old retard who's locked himself into too much money, but I can promise you I hang with the Jane Street's 750,000 TC new grads and VC savants and startup prodigies. This is the consensus worldview on the side of the world that produces all the returns to the S&P 500 and GDP growth. And then he's got some stuff about Peter Thiel. I thought it was interesting, but... There you go. An email. With an argument that at least makes sense, okay. Do you see a possibility that tech is a bubble? I went to college learning how to make web pages for people, but now there's no reason to have a distinct web page from Facebook / Squarespace / Substacks. I don't know if I would say it's in a bubble, but I think, like I said before, I think the more important thing on the software side of stuff now is like more abstract problem solving than just knowing how to build a web page or knowing how to program a program or stuff like that. I think it's being able to work within like more abstracted things. Somebody sent me an email. I don't know how true this is. Probably too much of my information comes from individual emails from people. But somebody sent me an email that says like even programming languages are moving along this trend where I think the example that he gave had to do with like memory management, that like early programming might have had a lot to do with things like managing memory to make sure that your programs ran efficiently. There's the meme of the roller coaster tycoon guy who made his whole fucking thing in assembly because he wanted to have the most efficient program ever. But nowadays, a lot of programming languages or frameworks don't even let you touch memory. Like all of it is handled basically by the language itself, and you don't even do anything related to memory allocation because it's not a thing they expect people or even care for people to know anymore. Everything is like more abstracted. I don't know how true this is. I don't know if any programmers or whatever that done this, but yeah, I don't know. Remember, guys, if you don't articulate your arguments in a fashion that satisfies Destiny's debate-coded brain, nothing will be heard of you. That's a very negative way to say that if you just read and scream and screech, then yeah, it's not a very compelling argument, yes. Holy aspect ratio. Have you seen Russell Brand's latest video? No.
We're on the brink of needing to...
Vaccines don't cause autism. Oh boy.
Glad I caught you. Glad I got you there. Elon Musk. By the way, please don't watch this if you're not Elon Musk, okay? This is a one-off video that we're doing. This is private, personal. I put this in his email. I don't know how you got this, unless you're on the Asmongold Discord server, in which case you know my every move, okay? Me and Asmongold have been planning this for a while now. Moist Critical's involved. And yeah, I guess if you're on the Moist Critical Discord server, you would have access to this file. So kudos to you, hacker. I don't think Elon's gonna watch this. And listen, I know as a comedian, first and foremost, I don't expect people to take me seriously, but it is a fact that shit posting and public opinion are now intermingled permanently, and it's not going anywhere. And that's just the way it is. I get all my news from memes, basically. That's how I get my news. Is that how you get your news? How would you even get the news if you weren't looking at memes? You'd watch a show? That's even more fucking retarded. We turn that off? It's a smart thermostat, so it's gonna take 15 minutes to figure out how that fucking thing works. It's very intuitive. I don't know why the Nest thermostat is taking you so long to learn and intuit. Okay, a toddler could figure this out. A toddler on an iPad could figure out how to use the Nest thermostat. That's Chris Lynch, by the way, Elon. Do not hire him, okay? He's leaving this job very soon. See, he's white, he's too lazy. Chris, you're so lazy and white. Well, yeah. You guys should have studied violin harder as kids. I swear to God, Vivek would have figured this out by now. I want to believe that Elon is one of the great men of our age, and that he...
I'm not going to be able to follow every fucking reference or meme or whatever just because I don't follow enough fucking weird online shit. We're aware that like all of this is like coded to hit on... how many layers of fucking irony are we on, right? Some people are really mad because I think Vivek made a larger post. He made a larger post pointing out some of the cultural differences between how we raise kids, like in the East and the West. And it was an overgeneralization, but it came down to basically like people in the East value discipline more, and in the West we let our kids be more lazy. That's a pretty uncharitable way of saying it, but something along those lines. So that's what he's referencing there for like, oh, I guess we should have learned the violin more, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys should have studied violin harder as kids. I swear to God, Vivek would have figured this out by now. I want to believe that Elon is one of the great men of our age, and that he has what it takes to become a 21st century Andrew Carnegie. I think it's important to have great men to look up to. Trump, Joe Rogan, oh there it goes, Elon, Tucker. And it's not necessarily important that our great men are perfect, but they're symbols of what we could be. I think of Ron Paul, took steroids, he would be my number one. That would be my number one guy. You agree? Yeah. I would like to offer you an escape, an exit from this hole you've been digging. You are a beloved figure. Anytime you do anything remotely based, people lose it. Oh my God, he's based. Yo! He just said that woke liberals aren't cool. He's based. What does he say? Yeah, anytime you post an AI kitten in a MAGA hat, people lose their, he's based! He's fucking based, man. For the guy who's the free speech guy, and not only that, but the reasoning from first principles guy, the logical fallacy guy, the Reddit guy, good faith argue with everybody, you know, whatever. All that shit. Blanket banning groypers, taking away blue checks, changing the algorithm of the site because 100 people ratioed you, because there's fucking 50,000 posts. They're all organic, by the way. This is not some Russian bot farm. It's not some nefarious behind the scenes, let's mess with Elon, we're gonna fuck with him. That's not what it is. It's you tapped into a critical, moist critical. You tapped into a moist critical, and we're back to moist critical. Mainline concern for the American people. And you treated it in a way that was glib and dismissive. You just became a Republican 3 months ago, and you're talking about removing a big portion of regular people, root and stem. No. People fucking love you.
Removing them from what? From Twitter?
They will forgive you. Nobody is trying to get you to become turbo base pilled, full Pat Buchanan immigration policy. People broadly understand that you are a San
No, from the Republican Party, it's a tweet Elon made. Oh, from the labor force.
Francisco, tech, California, international, immigrant. Well, if you want to be a regular tech guy, that's fine. You can do that. You can be Larry Ellison. You can go play on the boat. Nobody's going to give a fuck. Realize what you're fighting for.
Fuck, I haven't kept up with all of the... Elon says he wants to remove contemptible fools from the Republican Party root and stem. MAGA is taking a page from Democrats on how to lose elections while feeling good about themselves. Yes, and those contemptible fools must be removed from the Republican Party root and stem. Gotcha. What do you think about his fit? I think he looks good. I think Sam Hyde is a little bit like Mr. Girl. I think he has a very good eye and a very good intuitive mind for like content and aesthetic, which is unfortunate given how fucking insane he is, but...
If you're going to be the tech king, if you've courted the MAGA base, you wanted these people on your side, they're ready to be on your side, but you have to fight not for Ben Shapiro's idea of the country of America, the notion of America as this collection of ideas. That's not what it is. It's Americans. That's who you have to...
Okay, my irony tank is empty now. What the fuck is happening? None of this is irony. Sam Hyde is a neo-Nazi. I think that there were... this was questionable, I think like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe. And then he gave that interview with that one guy about the Jews controlling the media, and that was really weird. But if you watch any of his podcast stuff, like he's very clearly bought into all of the neo-Nazi stuff. Like he's just full on, that just is. There's no irony there. I thought Destiny liked Sam Hyde. I think Sam Hyde is funny, and I think he does really well in his aesthetic stuff. Kind of like Mr. Girl, I guess, yeah. I think Mr. Girl's funny as well as his aesthetic stuff. But he's a neo-Nazi. He just, absolutely. Like not even like neo-Nazi adjacent or whatever. Sam Hyde believes in what he says, but he hides behind irony, right? No. Sam Hyde does not hide behind irony anymore. He used to, maybe. He used to, but not anymore. No. This is like, now it's like ironic in the way... It's ironic in the way that I might say like, man, I need to go beat up a bunch of people. I wish I had more savage friends that could dish out some violence, but all my friends are white. Like, that's like an ironic joke, but I'm not hiding anything there. It's very obvious what I'm getting at, right? It's very obvious what the joke is, even if it's like ironic. Like you know what the joke is, right? well, if I said it, it would be ironic because you know that I'm not racist. But if you thought that I was racist, it would be ironic, but it's obvious. The joke is that I want more black people who are savages. Not that I'm making the joke that calling black people savages is inappropriate or that's the joke or whatever, right? Sam Hyde is mask off. He's been mask off for a long time. That's all I'm saying. Like, I think that this was probably the peak of his like mask on, mask off, like where it was, or at least for me also. If you followed him closely, maybe you would have seen the mask clip earlier. But I think when he was doing his Adult Swim stuff, I don't think it was as obvious at that point that he's like, oh, fuck, this guy's a Nazi. But.
Oh, yeah.
How you doing there, Skeeter? Listen up and listen good. Since the beginning of recorded history, the white man's been coming up with technologies, culture...
Serious question, why doesn't he associate with Nazis then? Like, isn't it kind of weird that he does weird shit and comedy skits? I could think on that a bit. Some like shallow answers, as in I haven't thought about this a great deal, but a couple shallow answers that I would have is that one, it kind of leans into the argument that I made like 10 years ago against Fuentes, where it's like, okay, well, let's say that you kick out all the brown people from society to make all of your white European stock. Like, aren't you worried that the next people that would go would be people with brown hair or people with brown eyes or people that are too short, or like, where does that train stop, right? So I think one issue is that Nazis have like an exclusionary principle that's not very well defined, right? Because European stock is literally only an expression said by somebody who's never been to Europe. It doesn't make any sense to say European stock. That's just historically, that's stupid. Contemporarily, that's stupid. By race, genetics, ancestry, that's stupid. Like culturally, it's stupid. It just, that doesn't make any sense, right? So it falls apart when you examine it closely at all, which I think is an issue with the Nazis associating with each other. Because they all fight over what it means to be a neo-Nazi and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And is Nick Fuentes Mexican? Well, if he's getting arrested, he is. And is this guy like pure enough, or does he have like, this guy wants to be a Nazi, but he also thinks we should have immigrants. This guy wants to be a Nazi. He thinks we should have no immigrants. This guy wants to be a Nazi. He thinks we should deport all immigrants. Like, so where do you even draw it off is hard. I think the second thing too is, I feel like the Nazi culture is a little bit too destructive, and they don't have anything that they can point to for positive contributions. Like, it's pretty weak when you're like, oh, white people are the best because my ancestors like did, you know, like Bach and Beethoven. And it's like, bro, you listen to Drake and Kanye West. Why are you citing these people? You don't even listen to the music of your people. Like, what the fuck? So I don't know. Those would be like my two guesses why all the Nazi types don't usually get along that well with each other unless they're fighting somebody else. And that's why they don't all collab with each other. Because I feel like those neo-Nazi spaces are notorious for infighting. Yeah, they just, like, I don't think any of them get along with each other, do they? Like, even within the Groyper movement, Fuentes has had huge falling outs with almost everybody else in that movement, and yeah. Destiny, this guy wants the kick stream. Wait, is my kick stream not on right now? Oh, sorry. Here you go. It said it was broadcasting. Wait, somebody said Asmongold watched the whole video and said he agrees on mostly everything. Wait, no shot. But what we haven't even watched this. Oh, sorry, wait. This is one of his, when he had a show on Adult Swim, this was one of the videos that he did. Now when you watch this in retrospect and you know that he's a Nazi, this hits a lot differently. I thought it was funny at the time because I thought it was like a joke, but now I'm like, oh, fuck.
Oh, yeah.
How you doing there, Skeeter? Listen up and listen good. Since the beginning of recorded history, the white man's been coming up with technologies, cultures, civilizations worth keeping, worth saving, worth giving a damn about.
Thank you, white man, for inventing the computer, the microwave, medicine, electricity, sanitation, theory of evolution, the radio, the pencil, Western law, cotton candy, freedom of speech, the sewing machine, discovery of DNA, the atom, discovery of the cell, the camera, Chrysler's, and we was king.
This work hangs.
Thank you, white people. Thank you for creating a society where people don't shit in the street or beat their kids all day. And thank you for letting us use your pristine, clean emergency rooms. And thank you for all the free money. Oh, and by the way, did you know I'm 1/8 Hopi Indian?
I don't give a fuck about that.
Excuse me, mister. Yoo-hoo. Hi. Thanks for giving women the vote.
What happened to your boulder, Goy?
I don't know. I wasn't looking. Next thing I knew, boulder's gone. I guess I'm a stupid goy. You're white. Mm-hmm.
Holy shit, it's the Prestige on House. Somebody said, Destiny, yeah, I've been following Sam pretty closely and I've never seen any indication of being an actual Nazi. It's always 3 layers of irony. I would say that things that I've seen from the little podcast thing he does, it's very, where he's not just like doing jokes and memes, it's pretty obvious where his beliefs are. I think it's been that way for some years now.
Idea of the country of America, the notion of America as this collection of ideas, that's not what it is. It's Americans. That's who you have to fight for. If you're in America, doing business in America, you want to be the man in America, you have to fight for the American people. You're not fighting for a paragraph. You're not fighting for a set of ideas, man. It's the American people who need your help. That's fundamentally why I think people are pissed off here. And it's an easy fix. Just don't call them retards. Elon, have you met Chris? He's on Asmongold. He's streaming all the time. You should just check him out. He's playing these games and stuff. He's amazing what the kid does with video games. I can't believe it. People didn't suddenly have a flare-up of indie.
What's the gist of this video? Can someone summarize it for me? Well, it sounds like he's about to lay out basically why America and American culture is supposed to be white European culture, is what it sounds like he's about to argue, so. Destiny, curious, would someone like Fuentes want a country full of white people, but they aren't conservative, or a country full of Hispanic/Black/Asians, but they're 100% Catholic and conservative? So, even though I've asked this question before, I'm asking it to tease apart an ideology. The actual answer to this, the Steelman answer, is people of this political persuasion view culture as an essential aspect of your race or ethnicity. So when you ask a question of, do you want white people who are not conservative or black people who are Catholic and conservative, that question doesn't really compute in their mind, because it's like asking, do you think that it would be better to have a society full of rapists who don't rape people, or a society full of non-rapists who do rape people? Like, it doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? It's a tautological thing. It's baked in. The white genotype produces a phenotype that is of a certain culture, and these things are essentialized. And then the black phenotype is produced by the black genotype, and it is an essential part of that person. So to tease apart these things is a meaningless question in the mind of somebody who's like a neo-Nazi or a race realist, if that makes sense. This is a Steelman version of their argument as well. Like, they will agree with this if you ask them. I'm not like strawmanning. This is the, yeah.
India hate. I've been monitoring the Indian hate websites for a while. It's actually set to my homepage. I've been checking these websites out. I watch what these people do. There were very few overt Indian haters spewing their nonsensical filth everywhere 72 hours ago. What happened? Okay, 72 hours ago, most people in the MAGA base looked at Vivek Ramaswamy with some notion of admiration, or, hey, that guy says cool stuff every once in a while. Hey, you know what? I think I like that guy. Now, he's got to be deported. Sucks, man. And he's not being deported because of the color of his skin. He's being deported for the content of his character. And I think that truly was a mask-off moment where we saw that Vivek Ramaswamy really is just a fucking nerd who needs to go back. I think that what you did is different. I think it's everybody spurgs out. I'm spurging out right now. I'm gonna spurg out later, okay? On Chris, Lynch. And also, Indians do cool stuff every once in a while. They got the chest slapping wrestling. You guys watch that? Action movies. He's shooting a bullet out of the air with a gun. He's flipping over the tuk-tuk. Indian clubs, shoulder rehab exercise, fantastic. The hate, it's irrational hate. It's just racism. It's just a nonsensical racism. The hate and racism and anti-Indian sentiment, it's there to the extent that Indians are being used to replace white people. That's it. We have to stop playing pretend. We're not talking about, we have to stop playing pretend. We're not talking about exceptional Indians here. And that's why this is sort of spreading like wildfire, people sharing these H-1B lists of what the jobs are. You are not in Calcutta scouting for the next Indian Einstein. You're not. We have to make it to outer space and invent new computers. Let's get to India and get the next Nikola Tesla. That's not what's happening.
I'm probably not going to do too many of these from the Nazi baiting because it's boring. Sorry to spam, but I'm genuinely curious. Do you think race and culture aren't 0% correlated? Come on, man. Okay. The main issue, in my opinion, of people that are neo-Nazis or racial essentialists isn't that they say that there's some correlation between race and culture. I'm sure there is. They're just probabilistically speaking, I'm sure there is. The issue is two things. One is a hyper absurd simplification or expansion of what race means, such that all white people are of one race and all black people are of one race, rather than focusing more specifically on like whatever your haplogroups or your ancestry, related people or whatever, of which you can make stronger genetic relational arguments or whatever. That's one thing. And then the second thing is to the overstatement of how much culture is downstream from race, such that like the race. So like the worst versions of these statements are the race of white people produces good white things like classical music and science, and the race of black people produces some good black things like African American music, but mainly things like crime and poverty, right? These are the big ball issues that I have with with neo-Nazis or a lot of the racial essentializing. The opposite of being a neo-Nazi doesn't have to be the supreme wokey retard who's like, actually, genetics have absolutely nothing to do at all with IQ or culture at all, and everybody's totally tabula rasa and absolutely nothing about. No, I don't believe that. That's retarded, obviously. But it's just as retarded to believe on the other end that everything is so essentialized and so cleanly maps onto skin color that you can predict like huge things about large groups of people. That's also really retarded. But
we're talking about people at fucking gas stations. You bring them over, you put them in a fucking gas station, and then we'll go around all the gas stations in the USA and find the next genius. Well, what if he's not in India? What if he's working at a gas station in North Carolina? He might be there. We don't know. Why don't we bring everybody here and then we can look for everybody?
Obviously, H-1B workers are not being brought over to work at gas stations. Revisiting the concept of the Great Replacement, from what I remember, the strongest argument or the strongest version of the Great Replacement, I don't even remember why 100%, but it's basically the idea that Jewish people control a lot of the levers of society by being the heads of financial institutions like banks, by being the heads of political institutions through things like AIPAC or lobbying or just having Jewish people in Congress, and by being the heads of Hollywood or entertainment and media to push cultural messages. And part of what they push is this concept of multiculturalism, of immigration, and the goal to do that is to bring in outsiders, non-white people, to basically breed out all of the white people. I don't know why, but to defeat white people, even though they also need white people from America to protect Israel, I don't know exactly what the intention is. Maybe Jewish people are just evil, or this is how they bring about the Third Temple. But whenever you get a lot of notion of replacement or bringing in especially low-skill immigrants, the goal is to always outbreed white people. This is part of the reason why I don't know if Charlie Kirk gets these talking points from like neo-Nazi people, or if this is a more natural like conservative feeling of like, we need more families. But when people hyperfixate on the family, sometimes this is just like a good faith conservative or religious person who wants people to have kids and contribute to society. Other times it's more insidious and it's white people need to go back to having kids because look, we're being outbred by all of these unsavory, darker people. White people need to go back to having families. We need more kids. We need white kids. We need white children because holy fuck, the white people are losing the race. We need to have more white kids, you know? Let me grab a Red Bull, hold on.
If he's not in India, what if he's working at a gas station in North Carolina? He might be there. We don't know. Why don't we bring everybody here and then we can look for everybody? That's actually a fucking genius idea. We bring fucking everybody here and then, like a needle in a haystack, we find the one man who can invent electrical computer. That sounds fucking retarded and it's not true. You have to at least say,
bringing over the best and the brightest to the United States doesn't mean that we're always looking for Einsteins. It could just mean that we're always looking for productive workers. Now, I don't know where the mainstream talking point is on this. Like if people like Vivek are saying like, oh no, we're bringing over Indians because we're trying to find the next Zuckerberg or we're trying to find the next Elon Musk, that's retarded. That's not why we bring these people over. We just bring them over because we want an educated and productive workforce. When I say productive also, in an economic sense, productive means how much revenue, how much output does a worker produce given 1 hour of labor input? That's what productive means. So educated workers tend to be more productive because a single educated worker tends to produce more revenue per hour worked than a less productive worker, right? If that makes sense. When I say productive, that's what that means. Some people, I don't know, some people think productive just means like you're not being lazy or whatever, but that's what, when I say productive, that's what that means. So when you talk about like worker productivity, it's what is the revenue output of a worker per hour. And when I say Americans are highly productive in the workforce, it doesn't mean that we don't take breaks or we don't have a vacation or whatever. It means that the economic output per labor unit labor hour, whatever, per worker is higher than the rest of the world on average. Quite a bit higher, but yeah.
that the
Destiny is insanely naive or dishonest. What? Okay. Destiny literally just said his strongest steelman for great replacement is the Jews are doing it, but I don't know why, ... Well, no, what I don't understand is I don't know why the Jews, let's assume for a second that the Jews did run the world and the Jews did want to, let's say the Jews run the world. If you're Israel and your greatest defender is the United States, wouldn't you want white people in the United States to be strong so that they can continue to protect you against like crazy evil Muslims? Wouldn't that be the goal? Like, why would you try to outbreed white people in the U.S., have the pro-Pallies take over, destroy the U.S.'s ability to function? Now they can't protect you anymore. And now as Israel, you're an abandoned nation. Unless you think that if the whites get too powerful, then the whites would realize that the Jews are in control and then overthrow them. So maybe that's why I don't understand that part of the conspiracy. That doesn't make sense to me, but... Okay. They may interpret it as willing to overwork. There were a lot of people complaining about 8-hour weeks, and fucking PBD was out here defending working 80-hour weeks. Yeah, 80 hours, working overtime and working whatever has nothing to do with being productive. Productivity is just a measure of economic output per hour worked. That's what, yeah, that's what that means. As an immigrant from Iran, I saw this as an edge. I didn't mind working 80 hours a week. I didn't mind the competition. All I wanted was a shot. This used to be the American way. Time to return to it. Take a minute to read. PBD ran an insurance company, PHP, that operated as a multi-level marketing agency. And MLM has a structure. Oh, okay. I don't even know much about his business or whatever, but... It's not hours worked, it's dollar input. Wait, is that true? I guess they would track, right? Because for very low skill labor, you're probably paying close to $1 input is what you get out of them, right? Because you can only pay so little and the materials sold are very little. But for higher productivity labor, they're usually producing like much more advanced goods. Let me check that, hold on. How is labor productivity measured? It might be cost for an hour of work versus the output of, that might be the case. Labor input is measured as either the number of workers employed or the number of hours they worked during a given time period, say a year. Wait, Investopedia. Labor productivity is often used to calculate the amount of real gross domestic product, GDP, produced by an hour of labor. Growth in labor productivity depends on three main factors: savings, investment in physical capital, new technology, and human capital. No, fuck you. I was right. Okay. Wait, hold on. Let's suppose the real GDP of an economy is 10 trillion and the aggregate hours of labor in the country is 300 billion. The labor productivity would be 10 trillion divided by 300 billion, equaling to about $33 per labor hour. If the real GDP of the same economy grows to 20 trillion the next year and its labor hours increase to 350 billion, the economy's growth in labor productivity would be 70%. Yeah, okay, fuck you. All right. The point is, you're not hiring Indian engineers for 70K because they have the same output. You're hiring them because the dollar input is greater for the output compared to native engineers. Well, this doesn't have anything to do with the productivity question. I don't think. This is just, you're hiring people. This is kind of like a self-fulfilling, how do I explain this? Let's say that I have a job, and let's say that I have 5 employees at this job, and I really want to expand and I want to hire 2 more employees. But let's say there are literally only 2 other people in all of society that can work. And there's other companies that are competing for these people. If I want to hire those 2 employees, I'm gonna have to pay them a fuck ton of money. Like so much so that my business might not even exist anymore because of how much I would have to pay them. Or I would have to raise my costs. I would have to raise my price at the end for my final product so much so that like people aren't gonna buy my shit or it's gonna severely hurt business or whatever. Technically bringing in other workers like pushes that price, the wages down a bit, but it's, I mean like you can't have infinite upward pressure on wages. That's just not a good, this is why I fight against that idea and I keep fighting against it. People get mad when I say it. Oh God, but we're coming up against like the logical extremes of the stupidity of employee equals good and labor union equals good and high wages equals good. These things are just things. Unions are not good. Unions exist to negotiate on behalf of employees. That's it. Employees are not good. They're just people that work jobs. Employers are not good. They're just people that hire people. Businesses are not good. They're just firms. It's a collection of owners and workers. That's all these things are. When you come at this with the mindset of labor union good, employee good, and high wage good, then you run into this weird trap of thinking like, well, more good is always gooder, so higher wage is always gooder, and that's the goodest good you can possibly have is the highest. That's not true. That's not good. If wages get too high, businesses either become impossible to run, or the consumers just can't buy anything because the shit is so fucking expensive. Like there's always a balance between all of these things. The Great Replacement can easily be a capitalist class domination mechanism to destroy the middle class. You skipped understanding the Great Replacement theory and just dismissed it because Jews. Well, because Great Replacement almost always has Jews as the top people. That's the Great Replacement theory that I'm talking about. There might be other types of replacement theories, but
H-1B program is being, you have to at least say that the H-1B program is being scammed. If you don't admit that, then as far as like any type of discussion that goes anywhere is concerned, it's over. It's over. This is a direct quote from Moist Critical himself. I'm speaking on his behalf. He was too busy streaming Marvel Rivals to talk to you. So I'm here on his behalf, giving you opinions that he approved, okay? Nobody's expecting you to go full Steve Bannon here. You're a tech bro, we get it. Immigrant. But if you are on Team America, and by Team America, I don't mean Ben Shapiro's collection of ideas. America's not a collection of ideas. America is a people, Americans. If you are Team America, then the most prominent talking points need to be the immediate deportation of illegals and the end of the abuse of the American worker by programs like this H-1B, the gamification of stuff like this that's set up to benefit people who aren't us. Nobody wants to solve the Japanese birth rate problem by turning Japan into India. That's preposterous. That only would work in a computer simulation where you can just change the code and make a Japanese person. I've tried it! It can't be done. In my laboratory, okay, where Asmongold.
Do you feel like the far right are being genuine to shit on Indians and other H-1B holders by virtue signaling that they care about the H-1B workers being taken advantage of more than their obvious racist stances like Indians/South Asians smell and poop in the streets? There's a whole bunch of different people that are caught up in these arguments, and I don't think people are aware of like where all of these people are. That's the issue. If I had to like guess and like assign a percentage of who's not globally, but like nationally in the US, like who's in this conversation, my guess would be that right now you probably have, where are we at, man? It's a scary place right now. I'm living in a scary time. I can't, really? Okay, whatever. My guess would be that probably 75% of people right now that are talking about H-1B workers are people that are genuinely concerned about downward pressure on wages. That'd be my guess right now. The majority of people are still in this bucket. And then you've got like this split between people who are Nazis and believe in some crazy, weird, great replacement thing. I don't know if I'd say it's as high as 12.5% now. And then you've got people who are just like kind of racist or whatever. Racism is bad, but it's fundamentally a different thing than this kind of like neo-Nazi bend. The issue is that I think all of these can blend together very quickly because they'll make similar style arguments and they don't realize that different people can represent parts of their interests while being wholly unaligned with other parts of their non-interest. And I guess like, so for instance, a guy here who believes in the economic anxiety that like, oh God, like workers are coming over and depressing our wages, will listen to things that Sam is saying and be like, yeah, actually true. I think this is true. I think they are depressing our wages. And the problem is you can get funneled into you're going to get funneled into this category here of the Nazi category if you listen to things like this. And then the racist people can get funneled into the Nazi category if they're not careful as well. But I think this is the category that can grow, is the Nazi category. And you got to be careful for this one. And I feel like it's higher than it probably has been in a long time in the United States, but this is like a very broad, I don't know, I could be off on these percentages, obviously, but. What's the difference between yellow and red? Yellow people are just like kind of racist and don't want too many brown people here because of whatever. Red people have like a more top-down systemic view of how society ought to be and the direction that it's going. So like a yellow category person will say things like, we have too many immigrants and it's because these woke progressives just want to bring too many fucking immigrants over because they're retarded and they're woke and they think that Hispanic people and whatever. Maybe they'll make some vague argument about culture. The red people are like, there are very powerful people in this country that are trying to destroy what it means to be an American because they're either slaves to Jewish interest or financial interest in a way that is wholly and completely separate from the interest of the average European stock American person. Our way of life is being threatened Our culture is being actively destroyed, and the people that are controlling the levers of power are invisible to us, and all we can do is fight against it on things like social media or through useful idiots like Donald Trump, who aren't even as Nazis as we'd want him to be, because Trump is really not a Nazi at all. They have a much more kind of like systemic, comprehensive view of why these people are coming, and it's not just a racist thing. And if anything, the funny thing is these people, the people in the Nazi category, when they present themselves publicly, will come off as less racist than the people in the racist category. Because like a racist person will say things like, I don't want these lazy fucking Mexicans and these smelly, gross fucking Indians coming to my country and ruining it. Fuck these people. But a neo-Nazi will say things like, I think Mexican people and Indians, I think, are great, and I think that they can do great things, but they should do them in their country. I want to do things in my country. And if you guys care so much about these countries, why are we brain draining them and doing all these horrible things to them anyway? Like, let Indians who are smart build a wonderful and beautiful India, and we can trade with them. We can have a relationship with that country. They don't have to replace us. They can just be our friends. Wouldn't that be a better way to do it? So like a neo-Nazi's public presentation is actually going to come off as less racist, sometimes significantly so, than just like a casual, like it's like casual racism versus competitive racism, right? Or professional racism, I guess, yeah.
Liz right now down in the basement. I have tried over 150 times to turn an Indian into a Japanese man. And the only thing I was able to accomplish was boiling them. All right?
Saying, oh, we just don't have the people with degrees is pure copium. No, that is not copium. It is true. Can you explain why that is a Nazi take? Why that is a Nazi take? Sorry, hold on. Saving comments here. Well, that's like your tip of the iceberg entrance point. The reality is that it's going to be hard to get too deep into like the neo-Nazi take, because in my opinion, all of it kind of falls apart when you examine it very closely. But the Steelman version of the neo-Nazi take is going to be something along the lines of the greatest and most prosperous years and designing of America was all done by white European stock. There wasn't no, Paget, Vivek Ramaswamy, Hamilton founding father. There was no, Ying Chang, whatever founding father. It was Hamilton, it was Madison, it was white European stock. These are the people that built this country, that made this country great, and all of this. And if you look at our victory in World War I and our victory in World War II, it was white engineers, it was white technology, it was white people. We did all of these things. And we haven't had mass immigration here since the Hart-Celler Immigration Act of 65, I think. And it was after that we started to be flooded with all of these immigrants. And now you play into the nostalgia tripping, where people assume that in the past it was so much better than it was in the present. Now you lean into the idea that, well, the reason why society is so rough and tough today is because of all of these new immigrants that have come in. Remember in the 40s and 50s, back before civil rights, black people were happier. Look at the stats about their families. Black people weren't being, abandoned by their fathers as much before civil rights. So it seems like civil rights only hurt them. And in America, we all had white picket fences and we had our homes before stupid things like women voting. And women voting, and because of their emotionality and their estrogen-driven brains, led us to things like multiculturalism and allowed Jews to control society more. And as a result of that, we've been flooded with mass immigrants who are making our cities violent and destroyed. And now every day on the news, we've got to watch Haitians eating dogs. And America is losing its place in the world because even our best and brightest are Indians and brown people who don't represent us and don't look like us. And everything that made America great is slowly being drained away because of all of these colored immigrants that are being forced in by women voters who are being manipulated by Jews to destroy and undermine the white race, right? This is like the whole fucking thing. And if you're like a random white dude in America and you feel some amount of like economic anxiety or disparity, or you don't have like anything going for you in life, because we do genuinely have like, I think, a crisis of meaning or purpose. Well, it's very easy to look at that and like, yeah, fucking A. Like you latch in, you're like, damn, actually that's based. Hello, yes. You're the same guy who's like a Muslim in Europe who's being recruited by ISIS, who's like, the ISIS videos weren't saying like, we'll pay you lots of money and here's your virgins. It was like, hey, like, don't you feel like society hates you and you're never going to be German or French and you don't have a purpose or a place, and like, come fight for us, bro. This shit is awesome. You're like, fucking A, actually it does sound kind of awesome. Yeah. But that is, yeah, that's like the broader thing of, I guess like the strongest version, I think, of that argument. Yeah.
If you think Elon or Asmongold if you're watching this, if you think you can turn an Indian person into a Japanese person by boiling them, not gonna happen, okay? Go down to my basement and talk to the 150 Indians that I already tried that on. Doesn't work. Nobody wants to solve the American birth rate problem.
When they say American birth rate problem, he means white person birth rate problem, always. Don't ever forget that. He might even go into it. But somebody said, I feel like a lot of white Americans lack identity and that draws them towards white identitarianism. A little bit, yeah. I think that's partially progressives' fault though, right? Because we focus so much on like building identity for women and building identity for other racial groups that the assumption was always just like, fuck white people, they've had it good for so long, so we're just gonna abandon them to the wind for a while and build all these other people up. And I think white people probably genuinely felt like, wait a second, what's going on here? Yeah.
What's gonna happen? We're gonna run out of people. Oh, the stock prices are gonna go down. Oh, that's a problem for the All In podcast to figure out.
One of the things I brought up before, and this is why I wish people would be more honest with what they're saying, because it would let us like talk about these things more, which is also one of the reasons why I shit on these like free speech losers, because they don't care about free speech, they just want to lie, is to these people. So when you're looking at like the Sam Hydes or the Nazis, for that pie chart that I had up, racist people and economic anxiety people still care about like the economy and the overall well-being of the nation. People in this camp, the neo-Nazis, are okay taking semi-significant steps backwards in terms of economic progress, technological progress, scientific process. They're okay taking steps backward to preserve some notion of white culture. They're totally fine with that. I don't know if they say that as much publicly, like they'll just allude to things like GDP, but similar to communists who will say things like when Professor Wolf, who was the commie guy that I argued with? Something Wolf. Richard Wolf. Yeah. When he said like, hey, listen, in a communist society, maybe you don't have PS5s, right? Nazis will make the same argument. However, they'll make it like ironically. So like the ironic manifestation of that argument is, oh no, I'm not going to have a kebab on every corner. Oh no, I'm going to have less Taco Bells. Or, oh no, my GDP and my stocks are going to go down. Oh no, like these are things they don't care as much about. They don't care as much about that. They're willing to step back economically a bit because in their mind, they would argue, I would much rather have a cohesive, homogenous, peaceful society with high levels of social cohesion and trust than the latest iPhone 27. I don't think that the iPhone 27 is making me happier when Jamal and Tyrone and Pedro are raping and outbreeding all of the white people in the United States. That would be their version of the argument, yeah.
It's David Sachs. Sachs of what? Sachs of gold? Just start calling yourself David Sachs of gold. What's the other guy? Jason Sachs? Asmongold? Asmongold. David Sachs should change his name to Asmongold. The branding is already set up for you. Asmongold wants to himself. You can replace his body and become the top streamer in America. I shouldn't say Asmongold wants to himself. I love Asmongold. That guy's classic. He's the ultimate. He's the best streamer. Is he good? I think he's good. I've never watched him. I just know his name is Asmongold. The only people who want to fix the American birth rate problem by turning America into India are fuckers. People are not interchangeable economic units. If they're not more than that, then that's just an extension of antinatalism. That's just nihilism. That's just people don't matter. Neil deGrasse Tyson, the universe doesn't care shit. The universe cares. That's
Do you think Asmongold's audience leans right? Yeah, of course. Quite far right, yeah.
why we're here. It's understandable why a computer guy, why an engineer would think that or would want to think that, because it would make solving problems so much easier. We have hardwired group preferences, we have genetic memory, we have culture. This is not learned stuff. It's
hardwired group preferences, genetic memory. These are all, I'd be shocked if he doesn't say or utter something similar to the like of the reason why Sweden and Norway used to be so peaceful is because these are homogenous places with high levels of social trust and high levels of social cohesion.
So deeply embedded in us that it carries on for thousands of years. Thinking of people as interchangeable units, while it would be useful in a simulation or in an economic theorem, It strips them of their humanity. And by the way, it's one of the first steps towards any authoritarian dictatorship type system. It's one of the first steps towards Marxism, is thinking of people as just labor. It's a very gross, anti-human thing to think, just to appeal to the Redditor in you.
So remember, the juxtaposition is always going to be economic units. That's what the liberal believes. I'm meaning this not like in liberal, progressive, Democrat, but just liberal, like liberalism. Because remember, all of these new waves of people, the Hassan Pikers, the Sam Hydes, the Nick Fuenteses, the very far left and very far right, these are all illiberal people. They're anti-liberalism. So they believe in some flavor of, if there was a nicer way to say authoritarian, I would say, I don't know, but like they believe in some other type of enforcement system. That goes beyond like kind of like these basic freedoms and free associations. They do want to have some kind of dogmatic enforcement of things like culture that is essentialized to race, right? So their argument on the flip side is always going to be, oh, well, these Redditors, these liberals just see people as workers and economic units, when I see them as like these fully fleshed out humans with families and genetics and histories and ethnicities, and they believe in things, and they like, yeah, it's more than just like a worker, right? Which is how the liberal sees them.
Human thing to think, just to appeal to the Redditor in you. That's middle brain shit. Stupid people at the bottom of the spectrum know that everybody is special. Everybody's special. Everybody's different and has their own thing. Retards know this.
I'd say attacking them by saying that they don't put the economy first isn't a great one. We all have things we would prioritize over the economy, at least ideally. Let's say that a new form of slavery was developed that increased the country's GDP by 30%, but we as liberals maintain. I'm not attacking them at all. I'm just explaining the beliefs. If you're interpreting this as an attack, then you're too sensitive or something. I don't know. I'm just explaining what they believe. I'm not attacking anybody.
Geniuses understand their own thing. Retards know this. Geniuses understand that everybody is a unique product by and for their zeitgeist, or Zeitgeist if you want to go with the moist critical pronunciation. Everybody is uniquely a product of their time and location and has their place in space and time. The smart people know this, the stupid people know this. It's people in the middle with 110 IQ, which is the worst IQ to have, who think that people can just be pushed around and moved around and changed.
Every time he says what he thinks Sam is about to say, he's wrong. He hasn't said any of that. So just to be clear, I've accurately explained every single thing that Sam has said so far. Anybody saying otherwise is probably like a mask-on neo-Nazi in chat, or a Sam Hyde fan, or a griper. Probably not a griper, though. I don't know if the gripers get along with Sam Hyde people who are trying to like lure you into thinking otherwise. I think I've probably talked to neo-Nazis probably more than any other left-leaning person on the internet, and I think I am more charitable, and I steal man people more than any other debater on the internet, especially of my size, so I think I'm pretty accurate on everything I've said. If you think I'm incorrect on something, feel free to point out the particular thing, but don't say something as basic and as retarded as, well, he didn't say that exactly. Or, I mean, I guess you should say that, because that's your role in this play, is to play stupid.
They can't. There's no hate towards Hispanics, okay? But that's why the room that I'm sitting in is covered in dust, is because the general contractor I hired used Hispanic labor. I didn't know. They laid down masonry cement. When I said I wanted polished concrete floors, masonry cement, you can't polish it. They left board marks and footprints in it. And I had to pay another crew of black people, okay, shout out to Greg, to come in here with jackhammers and get this shit dumpstered out of here. I went and hired my own blacks. I went in the ghetto and hired them by hand. That's how you need to hire blacks for SpaceX. And what you get is you get lower quality construction. You get lower wages for the blue collar workers who are here and fighting. You realize that people are fucking up against the wall fighting to make ends meet? Do you understand that the American people are on the ropes right now? Your people are not the world, okay? It's the American people. That's where this shit is popping off. That's where you came to do business. The American people are your problem now, to the extent that you want people to pay attention to your opinion. And by people, I mean actual people, not Patrick Bet-David, not Ian Miles Chong, Scott Adams, not these fucking faggots that'll...
Is it accurate, though, all optics aside, that in your view, an equally proficient Indian engineer and American engineer are more or less exchangeable labor units? How would you explain this to Sam Hyde in a more optics-pilled way that respects the humanity of the American people? No, I think that there are different cultures, and I think there are different people from different cultures, and I wouldn't say that these people are like equal exchanges in terms of just labor units. I think different people bring different things to the table for sure. The biggest issue I have when people like neo-Nazis talk about culture is they do this vague reference to, I think the biggest issue that I have is these people that act like culture can exist in some unchanging like glass prism where it can just be like it always has been and never adapt or evolve or change. And the reality is like culture changes over time. Your goal should be as a society to kind of like head off bad cultural changes and to guide yourself towards better cultural changes. We do this through hard things like criminal law, and we do this through soft things like the types of music and movies we consume and the types of projects that we pay money to, right, vote with your wallet, in terms of like the figures and celebrities that we support, the things that we say and do on social media. And these are the ways that to do it. To fight this from a racial perspective and to assume that because this guy is white, he's going to start off from a similar point of view to me than somebody who's a different skin color, in my opinion, misses a lot of the possibilities of what is what a society can do. Like, you're not just shortchanging yourself at the end of the day in terms of like what your society is capable of achieving. You're shortchanging yourself in terms of like the view that you can have of the world and what you even personally are capable of achieving. Like, I mean, we can consult history on what ended up working and what ended up being the most successful, right? Fascist empires that rose on this idea of racial homogeneity and racial supremacy, right? Nazi Germany built itself as like this military empire of racial superior people, and they lost their first war and then ceased to exist, right? And even when you look at the strongest examples of like, well, look at, this is where racial homogeneity is working great in Sweden and Norway, excuse me, it's only working great there largely because these people are allowed to live in peace with no conflict because they're being protected by the multicultural empire that is the United States of America. And more broadly, our multinational conglomeration of countries that are part of the United Nations and NATO, right? And that if you look at even in U.S. history, right, you had your agricultural slave-owning Southerners, and you had your more cucked Northerners who didn't believe in slavery. Like the North won the Civil War. And if you look at the groups of people that existed in the United States, it's not like the KKK had all of these great educational and scientific institutions where their scientific output and their cultural output was just far exceeding the rest of the world and the rest of the United States even because they had so much culture and power and they're white people. No, these people were like pretty much universally regarded as kind of like white trash, you know, like religious, anti-Semitic kind of weirdos. It's not like, it seems to be the case that what you have to do, in my opinion, not in my opinion, fuck you, as an American, America has to be like a breeding ground that allows and fosters different types of people to come together and then to take from these people the best of them and then to produce something that's greater than the sum of its parts. And when some of those parts are black and brown and red and yellow and whatever other skin color you want to attribute to people, you just have more to draw from. You've got more talent to draw from, and the product that you make at the end of the day can be better than what any like single group of people can produce on their own. There's a reason why America is the world's culture. Like, we are the world's protector in terms of military. We export culture to the entire fucking world. That's why I can't name a single fucking prime minister in Europe, and every single European citizen knows who Donald Trump and Barack Obama are. I can't tell you any fucking song or music that comes out of Germany or whatever else, but I know that in German streets, Gangnam Style was playing because South Korea, a country essentially created due a large part because of U.S. intervention, the multicultural state of the United States intervention, right? Because that music was allowed to get so popular internationally in places like the United States and then to be exported that way to the rest of the world, right? The type of multiculturalism, the type of economic output and the type of military output and the type of like everything that the U.S. exports, I think is largely built on this liberal ideology. I think that it's been empirically demonstrated. I think it works in concept and theory. And these ideas of these like super homogenous people who are so fucking scared of everything else and other people, they just don't have a good track record. It's like the commies. Like, show me these like ultra successful, ultra homogenous nations that made it because of their ethnic homogeneity. I don't think that there are good examples of it. I don't see it working too well, but.
Walk around sucking your ass because you have money and because you made an electric car. But to the extent that you want that, you have to protect the American people. You're all about being pro-natalism and increasing the birth rate. Why is the average dude gonna wanna have kids when he can barely afford to live by himself and eat Domino's? Hey, why isn't China importing infinity Indians right now? If it's such a huge economic advantage, why isn't China doing it? We need to do a naval blockade of China to make sure they don't get any of these amazing Indians. Every Indian that makes his way into China is a threat because China will use their genius to get one over on us. That's the biggest threat this country's facing, right? I think we need to go nuclear. I think we need to say, if China imports enough Indians, it's...
I think that, I think China does feel a lot about like the Han's Chinese ethnic stuff. However, now that I'm a little older, 36, okay, I have some perspective as a person here. If you're in your 30s, one thing you've heard since you've been a kid in high school is that China is 5 years or less away from taking over the United States in terms of economic output. China is on the verge of an explosion where China is going to rule the world. China is going to take over everything. China has the all of their trade routes, everything set up. They're like it's over. China's about to take over, and for some reason, it just hasn't happened yet. And the reality is I think that we fetishize or romanticize, whether it's because doom and gloom sells for economic headlines or because some people are just a little bit ignorant or whatever. People romanticize China's progress, I think, quite a bit. China relies on the United States quite a bit for a lot of stuff. They have a huge population to draw from, which helps. They've got a big playground in Southeast Asia, which helps. But China still hasn't conquered the United States. Why, right? I think it's worth thinking about this. I think it's worth thinking about, like, how is it? Like, is it really the case that the United States has been doing so well with blacks and Indians being this huge fucking drag on us, that even though we did multiculturalism and these people are fucking anchors being, you know, put out to sea, that we're still managing to, you know, push the ship forward? Like, I feel like it's a naive perspective, but...
It's like diamonds. It's like nanotechnology. Indians are like nanotechnology. We have to be willing...
Destiny, in Omaha, there's a black part of town and a Latino part of town. You can find some pockets in South O where people entirely speak Spanish. First of all, I don't think I believe you. Are you from Omaha? It's funny that you say that. North O is where the black people live, and South O is where the white, where like Hispanic people live. I lived in South O. That was my first house. I lived off of was it 42nd and I-80? I lived like right off the ramp for that, which was in South Omaha. Parts of South O and Omaha where people only speak Spanish. Maybe there is now, and I just haven't seen it, but I don't know about that. I don't know if I remember any parts where nobody there was able to speak English.
Willing to use nuclear weapons to keep China from getting these precious Indians. That's step one. Sounds retarded, right? Because it is. It's retarded. It's subtarded. Ever hear of a subtard? By the way, Moist Critical coined that term, subtard. Competing with China in what sense? GDP? Making a number go up? Having software companies that are valued more highly? Competing with China in what sense? And at what cost? If the cost is making America look like Calcutta, that's not worth it. That's not a price that we're willing to pay. People keep posting these aerial drone display videos of drones shaped like a dragon. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's something that a bright high schooler could do on a smaller scale, is it not? Making drones move around in 3D space. How is that an impressive problem to anybody except boneheads who are mystified by drones in the first place? Look at this aerial drone display. It's a ballet of killer drones. How can we compete with that? That's what drones do. They move around in coordinate space. Who gives a fuck? It's the low-hanging fruit of robotics.
Maybe I'm just retarded, but I just got being serious in this video. I'm getting a strong troll vibe listening.
Maybe I'm wrong. Didn't we have more impressive shit in the 80s? Isn't this more impressive? One.
Wait, hello? My YouTube stream just lagged. I don't know why I did.
We have more impressive shit in the 80s? Isn't this more impressive?
One. Cover.
With no pilot to compromise performance, even more
What was your response to that question? Wait, what was the question? I don't even remember what I just responded to.
unusual craft and propulsion systems have been designed and tested.
Why do we need to compete with them? Can't we just kick their spies out and tell them to fuck off? When do I get some Chinese pussy? Okay, am I not a big enough media figure?
So is this a troll video? Oh yeah, I can't tell if I just like if I've just like watched enough internet shit to understand the lingo better or the feelings or whatever. But like this is very clearly a serious video. This is not a troll video at all. I don't know how you could watch this and think this at all. Like these are all like very serious points that like people genuinely super believe. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you could think that. A lot of these also, when you dig into a lot of these points too, a lot of these points I don't think survive a lot of like deeper scrutiny. So like even this like making fun of like, well, look, drones are stupid. Like, wouldn't it be cool if you had like fucking airplanes and like spaceships? Isn't this better? Yeah, but like, where do you think people start, right? Like it's the kids that were playing with their 386s that grew up to be, you know, like the huge groundbreaking software engineers, or it was the kids that like were obsessed with video games or taking apart remote controllers. Like these are just like silly arguments. Or like even the argument of like Americans' backs are against the wall because of how much money we have. The American family is suffering because we don't have enough money. We can't afford things. But also GDP and money and economy don't matter. Culture matter. Well, why can't you just be poor and broke and still be happy and making families? Do you think that the average Mexican American is wealthier than the average white American? Because they have no problem making children. So something is, all right, but he might have responses to these too, and I'm just not aware where they are, but.
Compromise performance. Even more unusual craft and propulsion systems have been designed and tested.
Why do we need to compete with them? Can't we just kick their spies out and tell them to fuck off? When do I get some Chinese pussy? Okay, am I not a big enough media figure that the CCP, is it the CCP, Chinese Communist Party? Why aren't they sending these hot spies to fuck with me? Suck my dick for blackmail. When's that gonna happen? China, I'm waiting, okay? I have 300,000 YouTube subscribers, or 250,000 probably, 200,000? How much on Hyde Wars? If you have over 100,000 Twitter followers, you should demand that a hot Chinese spy comes and sucks your dick.
I feel like you're one of the few influencers with a major audience to point out the issues we face as a society with points supported by research facts. My question is just what's next? I think the issue is that there's this thing that Richard Spencer said to me that haunts my mind, and I fought against this a lot when I first heard it. But I think it is true. The more I've thought about it, the more true I think it is that you need like a common enemy, and without a common enemy, you kind of just like fall apart. People get mad at me. Even my own audience gets mad at me for saying this, but I'm trying not to focus on this too much. In general, in the United States, life is pretty good in general. Like we're doing decently economically. We have a ton of like fun things available to us. There are some problems that we have to face, but like we don't have like massive rolling blackouts. We're not like getting nuked or bombed. We don't have, like all of our buildings are falling over and, huge unemployment and everything is like, for the most part, things are decent. But I think that when that's happening, people can still feel anxiety or feel upset about something. And if there's not an easy thing to point to, because I don't think there's an easy thing to point to right now, everybody wants to kind of fill that vacancy with the thing that they care the most about. It was the joke I made. I say joke, but like after the loss of the last election, whenever somebody loses an election, that's your opportunity to step in and say like, oh my God, I know why we lost. The reason why we lost is because people are not setting the apertures correctly on their cameras, and camera settings are the most important things about commercials, and Kamala didn't have like good studio design when she was doing interviews. And other people are like, oh, actually it was because of feminism, and actually it was because of trans people, and actually it was because of the economy, and actually it was because of immigration, and actually it was because of healthcare. And it's like, okay, can it really be the case that, how can we not know? How can nobody know? And I think the reason is because none of these things are actually that strong of a negative thing right now in society. Because I think if they were strong, I think you would hear about them more ubiquitously, they'd be grounded in data a bit more, and they wouldn't come and go every 2 weeks as a talking point, right? A few months ago, Gaza and its genocide was the most important thing ever to lefties, and I don't hear about it anymore from anybody. I don't know. This was like the defining point of the election. A month or two ago, illegal immigration was destroying the country, and that was all I ever heard about. And whatever happened to cross-dressers, drag people? Did they end up like raping and killing all of our kids, or did we get rid of all the drag people? Did any laws get made? Like, what happened to all of the drag reading library people? Or like, are any of these problems real at all? Why do they feel so transitory that they come and go? I think that the inflation stuff, I think that was real. But notice that talking point stuck through years and years and years, probably because cumulative inflation and its impacts on our lives, that was a real thing. And you can tell because it stuck around for a long time through talking point after talking point after talking point. But there's so much other noise that when there's so much noise, it's hard to pick out what your signal is, obviously, right? Yeah.
Okay, you take video, whatever. Why is that? Am I not popular enough to get this fucking mingling, to get Bing Bing over here? Do
you feel like the MAGA base is more online than the average Dem voter? Yes, for sure. But it's because Trump was like a very online president, right? Like Trump was like literally the Twitter president, right?
A Tesla Model X and Bing Bing over here sucking me. That's my price, China. Send them over. Do we need to build giant cities that nobody lives in to compete? Do we need to turn our country into a surveillance state fucking nightmare to compete? Do we need to essentially have slave labor to compete? What type of competition are you talking about? And at what cost? Competing with China is competing with literal slave labor, and that's impossible to compete with. It's not worth competing with. And nobody who has a real sense of what matters in life thinks anything about competing with China. We've been hearing this for 30 fucking years.
Oh, shit.
As long as China has been an industrial nation, there have been headlines, The Economist.
True.
I remember this in the dentist office when I was a kid. China's looming on the horizon. We have to accept a lower quality of life immediately to compete with China. That's the thrust of every article. You, the American worker, you have to take less pay and accept more bullshit because there's a big boogeyman looming on the horizon. It's China for 30 years. Before that, it was Japan. It's constant. It's to keep wages suppressed. It's to make you shut up. Elon doubles down in this tweet, offering a false dichotomy. Either we have to have more legal immigration, or you, the person disagreeing with it, you want America to fail for your own personal gain. What personal gain are you talking about? You want America to fail for your own personal gain. What is Elon, what are you talking about? How does anybody personally gain from this? The only gain.
Wait, before he says this, because I want to head this off real quick, because he might make this talking point. And it's funny, because this is what I said before, is if you care about corruption and if you care about conflict of interest, right, in a way, Elon Musk is kind of the perfect person for these Nazi people, for these neo-Nazis to be making this talking point, because Elon Musk has everything to gain from spreading these talking points, because economically he stands to gain everything from, he stands to gain everything from having these types of workers come in, the H-1B workers come in, right? But this is one of the issues that I brought up, is that like, okay, well, how do you feel confident with Elon Musk being the person who's consulting Trump? Because obviously he's got huge economic interests in this, and for the neo-Nazis, Elon Musk is like the perfect target here to be making these arguments, right?
Happening is in stock prices of tech companies. That's the gain.
Yeah.
That's where the gain is. Cui bono. That's who stands to benefit from this arrangement. This tweet, it's not first principles thinking. It's not in good faith dialogue. This is a dishonest mischaracterization. Nobody's calling you a liar. People say things in the heat of the moment that are dishonest, though. This is a dishonest mischaracterization of the tens of thousands of people who are blowing up your website. This is not an own on Elon. This is not dunking on Elon. I know that you can bring the ban hammer down, and I know that you are going to be tempted to do so, that you already have with the Groypers, which, by the way, you have to undo that, man. You blanket banned people, not for saying not for posting swastikas, but for stating their opinion on this H-1B issue. That is a complete violation of the trust that the people you wanted to like you placed in you when you said that you're for free speech. It's straight George W. Bush, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. That's what this is. You're either agreeing with me or you're fucking an enemy. You're an enemy. It's not an argument, it's not a well-reasoned position. It's just my way or the highway. Is that what free speech is? Is that who you are? You can just be a celebrity. You can be like Ellen DeGeneres. You can be like The Rock, and you can get...
Do you believe Elon to be a general threat to the average American? Yes. Because, as I've said before, nobody believes me. That's fine. When I'm arguing against the normative loading of economic things, so like saying things are good or bad because of how I feel about them, and I say like labor unions are not good. They're just unions that collectively represent employees. That's it. They're not good. They're not bad. That's just what they do. I feel the same way on the other side about employers. I don't think that firm owners are necessarily good or bad. I think that they just represent firms. They represent owners. Elon Musk is an owner. This is a business owner. And him having so much say with the president is a massively huge amount of power lended towards owner types. And that's really scary in a society where the owning of capital, when capital is so productive and is so valuable to own because it's like such a multiplier on like your economic output, right? If you own business, if you own these things, you can make huge sums of money. Having somebody like that whispering that you're the president, I think is really spooky.
Get Ozempic, you can get breast implants, start going on The View, whatever you want for popularity. You can do that, of course. But to the extent that you have popularity, if you keep digging this hole, it will be misplaced. And it'll be there because you're rich. What does winning actually mean? Healthy, functioning societies, they need more than gadgets. They need more than Marvel, more than Goy slop.
Okay, so these are the points to remember earlier, that the iPhone 24 and the kebab on every street corner and the rap music is not enough to overcome the greatness of whatever white society shit that you want, right? Yeah.
They need a shared ideology, heritage, history, beliefs and values, religion, or they collapse and they crumble. That's Babel.
And just remember, he's going to bring up the Tower of Babel, whatever. That's fine. Guess who had shared ideologies? And guess who had shared, ancestries and kingdoms and all of that, right? Everybody across the entire continent of Europe. And they fought for centuries. And not to be an American elitist, but like America ends up dominating all of them, right? So what's happening there, right? It's not like these kingdoms rose up and became great and ruled the world. Like these things were always under threat of collapse or losing the Spanish Armada or their militaries or whatever the fuck else, right? Is Goy slop what I think it is? I actually am not familiar with the term. My guess is going to be Goy slop probably refers to everything that comes out of Hollywood because it's media that is like progressive and woke and is encouraging multiculturalism and it's headed by Jewish people. So hence Goy slop is my guess.
Religion, or they collapse and they crumble. That's Babel, that's Rome, that's every empire that's been crushed because there wasn't social cohesion.
And there's the social cohesion, social trust, yes.
Basic bitch libertarian principles aren't enough. Maybe they're enough to get VC funding, maybe they're enough to create an interesting exercise of some sort, but they're not enough to hold people together. And again, we're back to the idea of people as a collection of economic units. That's what at the foundation of Marxism, that reality is just math. And thus the justification for a lot of Marxism is also what leads Silicon Valley libertarian type people to attempt to quantify the unquantifiable. Mount Rushmore, the space program, the interstate system, motion pictures, electricity. These are all things that are not quantifiable. So they're quantifiable in the sense that you can look back and you can say that they cost X amount of dollars or that a certain amount of concrete and steel was used in their construction. But these dream projects are unquantifiable things. There's no slider in the program where you can crank up the number of Indians to 200 million and bring the American dream to fruition faster, okay? There's no data entry point where you can bump up the Indians and get Chrysler buildings popping up everywhere, more Art Deco construction. We do not need more bloated code bases, more tech gadgets, more poorly run hotels, more work ethic, okay? What we need is we need leaders willing to fight for the American people, not for corporations, not for the idea of America, but for the American people. That is the only thing that we need on the brink of collapse, on the eve of our crumbling. It needs to be something higher, a higher ideal than tech company market caps. If it's just that, then it's just noise. It's just not reality. Reality is the hundreds of thousands of kids who are graduating with massive college debt, hundreds of job applications. They're being looked over for people who are not us. That's not a meritocracy. That's not some idealistic, high-minded thing. It's just money. Apple and Google might win, but America will be worse. The soil that all this winning flourishes out of is salted. And that means that the next Apple, the next Google will be Chinese. Potentially the next SpaceX will be Chinese. Wouldn't that be strange? Wouldn't that be interesting if China makes it to Mars first? It would be great for humanity. Why don't we do it? Let's do it.
Like he wants so many things at the same time, but you can't have all of these things at the same time, right? Like would he be upset about, would he be upset if China made it to Mars first? But that represents like great technological advancement, which comes on the back of like economic success as well. But then he also talks about how like, well, but we need to get rid of all of these extra people from the US because we don't need more GDP and techno gadgets in order to sacrifice our social cohesion. Well, what is it? Do you want the techno gadgets to get you to Mars, or do you want the social cohesion from having just like a lower stock of less productive workers who just happen to all be white, right? And it's easy right now when there's not as much conflict to say things, like, oh, like we're just going to recruit Indians and blah, 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 blah. Okay, sure. But America was a melting pot of so many different people and so many different types of people, right? And I will do this. The diversity is our greatest strength meme. And I don't actually even know the answer to this. If I were to look up, say, the Manhattan Project, how many of the physicists, how many of the engineers, how many of the big contributors to that project were German Americans? How many of these people were immigrants? Albert Einstein came to the United States, right? Like, are these Indian goy slop? Well, maybe Albert Einstein, I guess, is a goy slopper because he gives us goy slop, like the theory of relativity. Like, these were, how many were, yeah, we're like Hungarians, right? You can talk about like kebabs and Taco Bells, but what about atomic bombs, right? How sad is it? How much talent did Germany expel from itself because of racism, right? Because of ethnic superiority. Like there's a world, maybe actually, I don't know if you could have powered Germany as hard without all the anti-Semitism and all the weird racism, right? There's a world where you have these people that stay in Germany because it's not quite as racist or quite as horrible as they were. You guys in chat are typing like, oh, well, they were all white. Like that's evidence of the United States and how successful our racial, what would you say? Like erasing the boundaries between, like you say they're all white now, but they weren't viewed that way in the 20s and 30s and 40s, and that like they're all white and they're all the same. It's always funny when you see like Polish Nazis today or Slavic Nazis today on the internet. My friend, back in the German days, these are not like Aryan, white, strong, Germanic like people. Like they were very different treatments of different people across countries that were dominated by Nazi Germany. There was a huge poor treatment of people that came into the United States from places like Italy and from places like Ireland, okay? You might say today, well, they're all white, so it'd be okay. That's fine, but who's to say that like today's Indians aren't 100 years from now? The other types of people, they'd be like, well, obviously back then Indians or whatever were okay, but now it's the new Martian people coming from Elon Musk's Mars that aren't okay, right? It's
will be Chinese. Wouldn't that be strange? Wouldn't that be interesting if China makes it to Mars first? It would be great for humanity. Why don't we do it? Let's do it. China makes it to Mars before America. Does that sound like fun? It's just humans. They're just interchangeable economic units. Why wouldn't we want that?
Like, what do you want? Do you want the, do you want the gadgets to get to Mars, or do you want like the the Sunday church gatherings with all white people.
Does that sound like fun? It's just humans. They're just interchangeable economic units. Why wouldn't we want that? I think we do it. It sounds good to me. How do we define winning? I just won. That was Asmongold that I spit on. I killed him. I'm not
People are saying integration. I don't know what you mean when you just type integration.
dissing Asmongold. I'm just playing around. I spit on Moist Critical. I'll spit on his face. Fucking guy. No, we love Moist. We have a deal with Moist right now. It's for nicotine pouches. These are Moist's nicotine pouches. I call them Moist. Did you know Moist is a Yiddish word? I didn't know Moist Critical is actually Jewish. Did you know that? I did. Crazy fact. Winning. Is winning making it so that
You were looking for the word earlier. Oh, sorry, maybe.
companies have even higher valuations? Is that winning? It's the valuation of Netflix. I figured it out. That's why we're not winning, is because Netflix stock isn't high enough. That's the only way to win. I want to kill my neighbors and burn them alive and blow up my car, but it's okay because Netflix is worth $3 trillion. I want to cut my cock off and scramble my brain with fucking fluoride. I'm gonna win because Netflix is worth $3 trillion. I can't believe the dollars are this high. I can't believe we're winning this much. The dollars are this high. We have such good drones and spying technology. We're winning. That's the most retarded thing I've ever heard. At least
I'm confused why this video is worth watching the whole way through. What are we expecting to happen? This is a really good summation, I think, so far of kind of like the neo-Nazi ethos right now. I think he's done a good job summarizing it so far.
Leftoid, medicine, vaccine brain niggas. Bleep that out, please. I said people. At least people whose blood has been replaced with vaccines and are so far on the left, they salute Mickey Mouse. They think that they're helping people. If winning is just drones doing an aerial display while a robot jerks me off to sample my DNA, then everything is lost. I killed a homeless person today, Chris. Did you know that?
You're an idiot. Go look at the genetic distance of a German and an Indian compared to a Brit. Germans are so genetically similar to Brits that it would be more appropriate to compare them as cousins rather than a whole different people. Also, Nazi Germany and Hitler viewed Britain as a brother nation. Here's your homework. Go look at a genetic distance chart. They exist. Okay, once you're done looking at the genetic distance chart and your obsession over genotype, then let's look at the phenotype of these nations, right? Do these nations act brotherly or cousinly with each other? I'm sorry, was the 100 Years' War between Britain and France or Britain and India? Or was World War I between the brotherly white nations of Europe and Africa, or all of the nations of Europe? Or was World War II between the brotherly nations of Europe or the white nations of Europe versus fucking Australia? Or like, what do you mean, the brotherly nations? How genetically similar are all of the motherfuckers in, or all of the motherfuckers in Yugoslavia that collapsed and all genocided and fucking murdered each other? Like what, like, yes, you can have genetic similarities, but what does that have to do with anything? When Italians, you understand that like when Italians came to the United States, they were the worst of everything that we accuse Mexican people of being, right? Fucking, you want to talk about like MS-13? What about the fucking mob? Okay, you want to talk about ghettos? Have you ever been to Little Italy or any parts of like New York City? I'm sure today it's a lot less than it used to be, but dude, you want to talk about like ghettoization of people all moving into certain areas and having their own culture and only hiring their own people and only working within their own criminal organizations and units, whatever? Like Italian Americans say there's a ton. We integrate though. We do that. We do it really well. Like this, genetics are real. Genes are real, and genetic, like phenotype from genotype is real as well. But it's just one piece of the picture. There's a lot of stuff that influences human behavior, and it's more than just environment. It's more than just genetics. It's a complicated interplay between the two.
It was free speech. I said, "You fucking dirty ass bum ruining my street. I'll kill you." And then I used a speech gun to shoot a speech bullet into his speech head. I ripped an NFL cheerleader team. The guys too. I used free speech on them. Do they have male cheerleaders in the NFL? National Flag League. Look it up, please. Does the NFL have male cheerleaders? That is awesome if that's true.
Can you explain why you disagree with his emphasis on culture as being important rather than just justifying why what he is saying is Nazi? I'm saying that what he's saying is neo-Nazi. I understand that Nazi carries a negative connotation. I mean, I'm not really normatively loading it. I'm just explaining what it is. Can you explain why you disagree with this emphasis on culture? I think that emphasizing culture is good. I think that talking about culture is good. But culture, when you talk about culture, it has to be more than just I'm scared of a group of people. That's not real culture, right? You have to talk about like cultural output. And I think something that kind of hurts a little bit, the culture argument, and maybe I'm a little bit biased here because my background is music, but some of America's like greatest cultural contributions to the world have been from our fucking slave descendants, have been from black people. If you don't like hip hop or whatever rap because you think that's degenerate music, fucking jazz and blues was heavily inspired by and came from like black people playing instruments wrong, right? Like some of America's arguably America's only great musical contributions to the world, or some of the first great ones, things like jazz, things like rap, came from integration of black people to U.S. culture. Like, if you want to talk about culture, I think culture is fine to talk about, but culture, it has to be more than just I'm scared of people that don't look like me. That's just so silly. It has to be more than that. Yeah, I don't think that any culture built on fear has ever been successful in all of human history. All of them collapse in like a single generation. It has to be more than that. It has to be more than that.
A third of the league's male cheerleaders. America is the greatest country on earth.
Only like huge like artistic contributions or whatever. America's made a ton of great contributions to the world. But again, a lot of them, arguably, all of them have come from immigrants, I guess, because we are a nation of immigrants. But like, yeah, like the Manhattan Project was a ton of people that had fled Germany that were scared of going back because they didn't want to be fucking murdered, whether it was Jewish people or whatever else. Yeah, America's made a ton of great contributions to the world, and we're better off for it. And we've had a lot of people that come here and do it, and we're better off for it. Like, yeah.
Here's your male cheerleaders. Is everybody on fentanyl? Everybody working at D'Angelo's? Everybody working at the mall? They're all retards. Everybody who's had their lives destroyed by Big Pharma, by the grist mill of inflation and taxation, everybody that's been betrayed by their leadership in this country, are they all retards? Is everybody who's got, and this is a lot of people, who has $400 in their bank account and is getting hit with overdraft fees and has the landlord from hell, are they all retards? You work at a sub sandwich shop. You couldn't invent PayPal. If you really believe that these people are all retards, then you have no place in the discourse going on about the future of this country.
The Manhattan Project is not exactly a good example of doing something good when you could argue that the existence of nuclear weapons is one of the biggest threats to our civilization today. Do you think it would be better if the United States got them first or if Germany got them first?
You are just a computer guy. And I don't think you really believe that. I hope to God that you don't. But if that's really what you believe, then you're not a leader. I could say fuck you. I could say take a step back and fuck your own face. But I'll say this. If you really believe that the American people are retards, which they are, we got male cheerleaders in the NFL, but if you really do not have in your heart grace and respect for the Homer Simpson vinyl siding.
You want to know the retarded defense of his argumentation that I always hear? Well, he does point out the correct problems in society. Low wages and college debt are a true problem. Yeah, but you work through problems. We've had a lot of problems in this country. We had a literal fucking civil war. You have problems. You work through it. There's never a perfect, like, what is the perfect society? Like, there was never been a perfect society. You've always got things that you're working through, right? College debt, like, it's funny because, like, in some ways, it sounds crazy to say this because we acclimate so quickly, but there are such things as good problems, right? Like college debt is a big problem. Like your society is becoming so educated and your workforce is so productive and so many people are getting a college education that college debt is becoming a big thing. Like that is an issue that we have to work through too, but it's better than subsistence farming being your big problem, where a dust bowl comes and now people don't have food to eat and they starve and die, or where your actual problem is too many child births because people are having kids starting at 15 and 16 because they need more economic units for the household because they can't survive without child workers. Like these are literally first world problems, right? And it's okay to have problems and work through them. But I mean, like, look to the other end, right? Like, how old is Sam Hyde? Like, he's preaching all this stuff about the degradation. Well, I guess he would just say that it's society's fault. He's 39 years old. Where's this guy's family? Where is this guy's children? Who is that one, the weird guy, hypocrite? He made that post before on Twitter with the Game of Thrones meme. This guy is super gross, and I think I have him blocked on Twitter, but it was a good meme. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Hold on, I will find this. Or will I? Wait, how old is this? Damn, this motherfucker tweets a lot. Are you okay? Oh, because Elon pays you to fucking tweet actual slop now. Okay, never mind. Maybe I won't find this. It was this. Fuentes, unmarried. Keith Woods, unmarried. Andrew Tate, unmarried. Tristan Tate, unmarried. Richard Spencer, unmarried. Dan Bilzerian, unmarried. You realize that white Nats/Nazis will take a country that vastly is worse in economy if that country is fully made out of white people, right? I hear this on X all the time. People say that, they say that, but it's because they're assuming that they would still have everything economically that they would have otherwise. But they say that. But like, do you think that a country full of white nationalists would be happy if we were on flip phones and the crazy Mexicans and the dirty Indians and the horrible Chinese were all on like iPhone? Do you think that the white nationalists would be like, well, at least we all go to church on Sunday and we're all using Netscape? Well, they're on like I don't think so. I think that the technological progress and everything I think is important. I think people do care about this.
Economy shitbox driving retards who make your dream possible. If you have a heart, if you are a human being, then that will sting harder than telling you to go fuck yourself. You can do the go fuck yourself all day. I tell myself to go fuck myself. You can say that all day. Fuck you, fuck you. I say that in the mirror when I wake up and when I put makeup on. Who gives a fuck? If you believe these people are retards and you don't have any goodwill towards them, then you're not a leader. You're just a nerd. And there's plenty of those. There's plenty of nerds who got lucky. I bought Bitcoin, Magic the Gathering online exchange. I got lucky. There's no shortage of nerds who got lucky. There's this disturbing idea from the BoomerCon right that America is just a collection of ideas, and you bring everybody in the world, the teeming masses who are desperate for a half gallon of milk, you bring them here and all of a sudden they're hit like lightning with this idea that makes them able to make this country stronger. This country's never been weaker, and it's never been more open to foreigners who aren't us. These two things, they're not unrelated. They're
like, I do agree that right now, this country maybe has never been weaker over the past few decades, but like the call is coming from inside the house. It's not because of brown people, and it's not because of immigrants, right? It's because of this like growing discontented group of people at home who by and large aren't even interfacing with these communities as much, right? Like if immigrants and brown people were the ones destroying our country, wouldn't you expect to see this revulsion coming from the cities and not from the people that like interface with these people the least? Like we have a lot of division right now inside, but I mean, like, I don't think that it's coming from brown people overthrowing the country or like undermining the country or
directly related. Would Ben Shapiro say the same thing about Israel? Israel's just a collection of ideas. Would Vivek say the same thing about India? India is just a collection of ideas, really good ideas. That's why they're doing so good. Grope women on the train. That's not a glib remark, by the way. I make a lot of jokes about Indians in my stand-up act. I had an Indian woman come up to me after a show. I thought she was gonna chew me out and beat my ass, ear-beating Indian style, for the jokes that I made. She said to me, "Thank you for saying that. I went there with my 13-year-old sister and they pulled her pants down on the train." Is that an Indian idea? When we bring them over, does that idea suddenly vanish and they get the neural net download of American ideas? Is that how it works? The people who are mad at you right now don't view America as a collection of ideas. It's not an economic zone. I hate how there's this argument against Americans asking them what they built. If you're so great, what did you build? What did you build? Nothing significant that gets built gets built on an individualistic scale. The greatest things that humans have built, cathedrals, which if you disagree with this, it's just, you're wrong. I mean, computers are pretty up there, but cathedrals are a good example of this. Cathedrals are built over hundreds of years. They're built not just by the army of stonemasons who build them, but by the towns who pay for it. They are the cream sitting on top of the cake. The cake is the soil. The cake is the vinyl siding dumbasses who are your customers, who are the people who pay for this shit by putting their retirement accounts in Vanguard mutual funds. They're the people who you owe a debt to, a debt for being able to do the stuff that you do. These H-1B tech workers.
I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, is the labor at the end of the day done by people? Sure. But, I mean, like, you do have famous architects. You do have famous, like, schools of architecture, schools of art, schools of technology. I mean, like, I'm nitpicking a little. Like, I broadly agree with this point that you need a society that's conducive to these things, that allows these people to, I guess, like, architect these buildings and then have the labor come in and build it. But I don't know what point this is. I don't think this furthers the idea that they have to be an ethnically homogenous base of people. But
to a debt for being able to do the stuff that you do. These H-1B tech workers that are coming in, so many of them are just managing apps that other people built. They're maintaining code bases for stuff that was built years ago. What are they making? Social media apps that collect all your data? They're making to-do.
Wow, nice garden. Thanks for the 100 gifted subs, buddy. Why do righties talk about personal choice until college comes up? Everyone can go to cheap unis with scholarships and supplemental credit websites. Shouldn't we just better educate people on resources? Sure.
Apps, dating apps, who fucking cares, man? What did they build? Mobile phone games? It's just stuff that feeds more into consumerism. It's not actually making life better for anybody. The sentiment that Americans aren't good enough.
I love how Sam never said that they have to be ethnically homogenous, and Destiny is just inserting that in. Everything that he, or never mind, whew, that was a big comment. You're banned. See ya. Nice try though. Good one.
That's one of the darker things that has happened here. I know that Vivek Ramaswamy does believe it to be the case, and for him, this Twitter bomb was a mask-off moment in a way that I hope it wasn't for you. But that sentiment and the Twitter deboosting, algorithm change, blanket ban, all that stuff, those are the darker things in the sense of not good for humanity, not good for the future. Running Twitter the same way your enemies did before you bought it from them. Is that what you wanted when you bought this thing? Is that the let it sink in moment? Is that what you envisioned for the global meeting grounds? And we're not talking about just making the 10% of people on the left and the 10% of people on the right mad. The middle is the Overton window. You're just talking about satisfying the Overton window. This is censorship. You're engaging in censorship pretty much right off the rip here. You just bought Twitter. You just got in with Trump. You just became a Republican. You just courted the MAGA base. That's a pretty big betrayal of the role that you have stepped in to fill, whether or not it's even true, okay? I couldn't work at SpaceX. I don't have a delusion about that. It doesn't matter because you are in charge of American companies. You are an American leader. So what matters is that that's the sentiment people are walking away with after your tweet storm. It's not helped by these Patrick Bet-David, wolf in sheep's clothing, cocksucker podcaster guys who are just up your ass because they have money. The extent to which you deserve to be a king, more importantly, or equally importantly, how posterity will look upon your works is directly related to your attitude, your benevolence towards the American people. The Cybertruck's cool, but if America crumbles, it's because we've taken on too many outsiders who don't give a shit about the country. Then the Cybertruck will be a footnote in a Wikipedia. It'll be the DeLorean. It'll be something interesting. People look back, oh, that was kind of cool. You know why they won't be driving it? Because they'll be driving a Neo, and China will be the first to Mars. This isn't fixed by moving the goalposts of what an American is. It would be a lot easier if an American was just an Indian with an Ivy League degree. It would make this whole problem go away instantly if that worked. If you could just wave your hand and say that an American is a Guatemalan who was born here, that's an American. We wouldn't have to have this painful conversation. It would be so easy if you could do that, if it were a computer simulation. That's Marvel movie shit. An American is whoever Doctor Strange brings through the portal to beat Thanos. The new Spider-Man is an American. It's a lesbian from Sri Lanka who just came here to start up a cupcake business. But she listens to Cold Wave. And she just came here to start up her hair dye business. She's an American. She's here for the American dream. That's not reality. That's math, that's Marxism, that's computer programmer, simulation, bullshit. We all know what an American is.
Is he ever going to define it or give values or anything? Or I know he's not going to say the racial aspect out loud because he never does, but...
And all these paragraph-long definitions and high-minded ideas, it's just propaganda. We know what an American is. And if you're not here to help the American people, then your usefulness to us is over with. The right wing, Republicans, conservatives, etc., they are trolls and memers and shit posters, and they have acerbic ideas, and they're also the most forgiving people. They are the most forgiving people. Anytime anybody does anything remotely based, they are absorbed by the right. Anna Kasparian talking about not feeling safe in her neighborhood. That's based, man. Anna Kasparian was red-pilled this whole time? I can't believe it. Damn. People, broadly speaking, do not expect you to be full-on 1950s racist Hank Hill, get him out guy. Get him out of here! That's not what they're looking for, okay? They're fine with the Silicon Valley tech version, the occasionally based, occasionally Neil deGrasse Tyson soy face. They love that Elon. It's this idea that Americans aren't good enough, this misunderstanding of what America is. You're just as bad as the people you bought the website from, if this continues to be the case. Are you able to listen to valid criticism? It's not from Russian bots. It's not a coordinated attack on you. It's tens of thousands of people pissed off because they think you betrayed them. I hope to God you're a leader. And the rest of you can keep watching this right now. Check it out. asmongold.com/ what's the guy's name? Moist Critical. That's the website. asmongold.com/ Moist Critical. You can now, if you're not Elon, you can jump over to the regular video and start watching. What I actually believe, I think that the US economy is grinding to a halt, and that the tech bros and investors, it's like someone tweeted about this, the bubble in the Japanese economy, where Japan was faced with the decision to either start importing people or get ready for a long winter. I saw that tweet and that immediately rang true. I think that these investor bros are counting on AI to offset the loss in productivity of this dying empire. It's slowly being realized that AI is, for all intents and purposes, a glorified spell checker. I use AI all the time. I'm a pro subscriber to ChatGPT and Perplexity.ai. I have Perplexity AI as my default search engine, and it's about as good as searching forum posts was 20 years ago. It's not some revolutionary thing. It's extra-dimensional autocomplete. The words have weighting and tone and various other dimensions that are vectors, and what you get at the end of it is an article that can almost fool a computer into thinking it was written by a human. I think there's a game of musical chairs going on with money, and people are desperate for a way to keep that game of musical chairs going, even if it means fucking us over. The idea that these tech guys want to bring in exceptional people is just not true. They're looking to hire basically slaves who can't leave their company without leaving the country, who will work for 50%. That's the other thing. They keep saying they'll work 80 hours a week. which is bullshit. Nobody works 80 hours a week. They work 20 hours a week of actual work, and the rest of the time is spent fucking around on the phone and showing the boss that they're working 80 hours a week, sitting in the office. They're not actually working 80 hours a week. And furthermore, why should anybody have to work 80 hours a week? Why is this a race to create slaves? Why is that a good thing? Why is that a humane thing? Why is that good for humanity? How is it possible, if you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're left or right, why is it a good thing to want slaves? They'll work 100 hours a week. They'll work in their sleep. They'll work 200 hours a week. They'll work infinity. They'll have no lives. That's not a good thing. If you want more hours out of somebody, you have to pay them more. It's just money. They'll do it for 20,000. That's what they're saying. They're pretending like they're complimenting their diligence and their work ethic. What they're really saying is we can hire them for cheaper. That's what that means. 80 hours a week or pay them 100,000 more a year. It's the same thing. They're just saying you can pay these people 150,000 instead of 400,000 or 80,000 instead of 250,000. It's just money. Any system that gets set up is going to be gamed. This one is gamed by Indians who are master gamers. Pull up the Cognizant article. This is a company that was found guilty of setting a pattern and practice of discrimination against non-South Asian and non-Indian workers. That's not the intention of the program. The intention of the program is to create a meritocracy. But like Thomas Sowell said, you have to judge things on their outcomes, not their intentions. You can make a law called the everybody good, free money, everything good law, but if the end result is that quality of life goes to shit, that's what you have to judge it on. And so this H-1B stuff, you can't judge it on the floral, high-minded, beautiful, humanistic language that's used to sell it. That's just propaganda. You have to judge it on the end result. Here's another one: hire workers at a fraction of the cost of American workers, force them to work longer hours because they won't leave their jobs because if they quit, they're gone from America. This is not helped by a government oversight committee or anything.
I swear the Nazi and communist populist talking points sound the exact same if you swap class and race. Yeah, it's all like illiberal stuff. It's always like trying to identify like a schism. You identify a real problem and then you insert the cause for the problem as whatever your pet thing is. So for neo-Nazis, it's always going to be like racial and ethnic stuff. And then for commies, it's always going to be class warfare stuff. It's whatever your particular talking point is, always happens to be the exact thing that needs to be solved to fix every single social ill, even though you can't show any historical like success of this ever happening in whatever way. In fact, it's usually quite the opposite, usually quite disastrous, but yeah.
Like that. It's just the case that when you set up a system that can be gamed, it gets gamed. That's how people work. They're looking for the path of least resistance. They're looking to maximize their benefit from the system. That's just human nature. Massive payouts over claims they discriminated against American workers in favor of foreign workers. Apple paid $25 million to the deal, which is like $25 to a regular person. Apple engaged in a pattern of citizenship status discrimination in recruitment positions. The claim that we can't find talented people here is nonsense. It's dishonest. The claim should be that we can't afford to pay talented people enough, or we don't want to. Sorry for getting overly serious here with you. At the end of the day, I think you should buy Bitcoin. There's this tendency to want powerful people or people in a leadership position. You get emotional when their every worldview doesn't line up with yours. You know, Trump's not based enough, or Joe Rogan's too whatever. But these are the men who define our times, and I think it's important you allow them to be flawed people to some extent, but also to push back when they go nuts. But in this case, I think that it's critically important. It's moist critically important. It's moist critical. This is the whole thing that moist critical says every time we talk to him. He put it all on the line to become the free speech guy and to turn Twitter into the global discussion space of the world. And you don't accidentally become adored by people. He can't just say, oh, I was just building a business and then I was saying stuff online and then I guess people looked up to me. No. There are plenty of quiet billionaires. There are plenty of quiet moneymakers, inventors. There are plenty of quiet engineers. There are plenty of people who aren't going to the Met Gala in the Satan costume. Okay? There are plenty of people like that. You don't accidentally become the hope of a nation. You don't accidentally become the hope of a generation. You don't. So if he wants that, I think he can have it. And I think he deserves a shot at course correction. He's been under attack by everybody for his whole entire career. So I think he deserves that shot. If he fumbles this, then that's his legacy. I don't have any sort of committed opinion as to what's going to happen from here. I'm mostly concerned with Asmongold, as we said. Moist critical games. Are they playing Tall Guy? What's the game we played? Tall Man Run. That's what I'll be doing tonight. A little bit of Raid Shadow Legends. What's the game? Last War Survivor. Big into that these days. I'm mostly doing that. Elon's number one ranked Diablo 4. Huge achievement. I'm number one ranked Raid Shadow Legends. Raid what? Last Survivor? Last Survivor. I'm number one on that Last Survivor. Check me out on the boards there, guys. All right? Boom. Peace.
Wow. Is the sentiment expressed in this video a real thing? Like, how many people believe this? Seems super online. No. I think a minority of people, minority. Like I said, my guess would be less than 20% of the conservative side. But like, this is a good summation, I think, of like the neo-Nazi mindset as it manifests today in society. And there's the potential that this type of rhetoric can like kind of sweep up a lot of the more kind of like casual racist people or just economic anxiety people into it. Because he does offer like a grander vision of society. People want like a grand narrative. People want stuff like that, and like there are ideologies that provide for grand narratives.